needs to know that his kids will sell it right away.
Oh Lord, don't give it to me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, give it away.
Right away.
How many kids he has? I thought he had
2.
how many on that?
Boy and a girl.
No, so the girl is the only one that's usually trusted. Boy, it's straight up. I usually get one just off of the play. What he passed. About, he was not, he's close to 100.
He's 89.
He's passed 90.
I think he's 89 right now.
He's 89.
I see one.
Okay, we're ready? Okay, well, great. Okay, thanks so much. Good evening. At this time, we're going to call the Town of Mangonia Park Fiscal Year 2021-2022 Utility Budget Workshop. This is, of course, our third meeting for the Utility Workshop. Into session. Roll call, please. Here.
Councilmember Green.
Here.
Councilmember McConnell.
Here.
Here.
Thank you so much. Of course, we're here to discuss the proposed 2020, 2021, 2022 utility budget. So at this time, we're going to turn the floor over to our town manager, Kenneth Metcalf.
Mayor and Town Council, thank you for your time this evening. This could be very brief. Certainly, I don't want to rush through it and ignore any of your questions. So we'll be happy to stay and answer any questions as long as you need us to. First of all, it's great to be back with you. Thank you for allowing me the time away, but it is great to be back. I want to thank the clerk for very, very valuable assistance, especially today as we start to crunch numbers and get down to this thing. We think we have what is starting to take shape a little bit for our utility budget moving forward. The worksheet you have in front of you down the bottom left-hand corner is dated 6/29/2021, so you know that's fresh off the press. At the top of the page, it does say budget versus actual 1920, so apologize. You will see a few errors on here, but I think the numbers will add up to where we feel like we have a pretty good start on this thing. So I'll take a few minutes, I'll run through this. We'll start on page 1. Feel free to stop me whenever you have questions. Okay? Page 1, and at the top of the page, that is your revenues for your utility budget. And you can see where it starts on line 1, goes through 18. That's the revenue side of the utility budget. I've highlighted a few things on my sheet that I'll run through, but certainly everything's up for discussion. Some things that really didn't change or change much, I won't comment on a whole lot unless you have questions. I'm going to jump to lines 6, 7, and 8. And again, this is under the revenue. Top of the page, lines 6, 7, and 8. All of these call for a 1% increase. That is to base, consumption, and the fire line revenue as well. So those numbers do increase a little bit, modestly, they do increase. Line number 11, this is a number I'm going to have to double check. This is a, if you will, a placeholder number. This is based on the Meritage project. Line number 11 talks about plant capacity for water under new construction of the 25,000. That probably is more than that, but for tonight, we'll just say 25,000. Could be considerably more than that. So that's the highlights on the revenue. Like I said, not a lot's changed. The proposal is to go up slightly just to try to keep pace with some of our inflationary costs. Any questions that you have in regard to revenue?
Yes.
Yes.
Line, that's the one shop right on
line level, Jen, so you've got a, proposed budget cost on Meritage, you got 25%, you got $25,000. You say it's probably gonna go up. Can you hypothetically give us a number how high it may go up? Because you're saying that's on the low side. So how much?
With the clerk's forgiveness, I'll put her on the spot. Sherry, do you have a good estimate on that?
And
Probably, about 123,000.
that's a whole lot.
Your ERCs for water runs about $750, I think. So you multiply that times 164 because they have 162 townhomes. And then you have the cabana and the swimming pool, which will have separate meters also, I think. I think that's been the number.
Give that for me one more time so I can figure it
About
out.
123,000.
Okay.
But you won't realize it all at one time because the project is phased. So that's why he put that.
So you may not see all of it. That's what Sherry said. You may not see all of this coming.
And the multiplication is, about 164 units.
162 units, but because of the swimming pool and the cabana building.
That's 160, whatever, we're getting 164.
Yes, sir.
Right here.
Thanks, Sherry. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Um,
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
You and I talked about this a little before, and I was telling you I know very little about water and the water plant. And let me ask you, eventually we are talking about hooking up water to the city of West Palm Beach, right?
No.
No, never?
We've had some conversations about doing a water interconnect with them.
Right.
That's what we were talking about, but.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Right.
Okay.
I think at our first workshop, we kind of took that off the table.
So we're not gonna,
Right now, anyway.
so we're not gonna talk about water connect with the city of West Palm Beach?
We can definitely talk about it. The takeaway that I got from that at our first workshop was that that was something council didn't want to pursue this coming year.
Ms. Green, if I can kind of jump in, the interconnect is for emergency water, so if that helps you a little bit, that's what he's talking
No,
about.
When he, that's why I want him to help me, because he and I discussed a little bit, tell me if I'm on the wrong thing, and I said to him, why are we gonna, first I would like to know what are we gonna do to our water plant for this much, and not now. And then I was wondering, why were we spending money to upgrade our water plant if we were talking about connecting to West Palm Beach? Remember, you and I talked about that. So Councilman Smith, that's what I'm talking about. And so maybe I'm talking about the wrong thing at the wrong time.
No, I think we're talking about the same thing, except what Council Member Smith just indicated is true. The interconnect, we have an interconnect with Riviera Beach now. Our engineer was wanting us to consider an interconnect with West Palm Beach as well.
Right.
For emergency service. I don't think, at least in the time that I've been here, council has undertaken.
Okay, so stop right there. So this is about the emergency service.
No, this is, what we're looking at tonight is strictly our water, our system.
If I may, just a moment, let the
Please,
record
yeah,
reflect that Vice Mayor Johnson is on the dais. I'll go right ahead. I was just letting the record know that she's here. I'll go right
okay.
ahead. Okay, all righty. Councilwoman Green?
I had to meet with you after because I'm still lost, because I don't understand it.
Ms. Green, if I can, this budget, what you're seeing tonight is strictly our system.
I think what I'm hearing is that the two of you had conversation, maybe, but not a council conversation regarding interconnecting with West Palm Beach for water purposes. The only conversation we've had in terms of West Palm Beach is for sewer.
Okay, so
Well,
let's,
as a council, that is.
okay, Mayor, so help me, so this right now, this is the new construction of our water plant.
No, what it is, it's reflecting the amount of revenue we hope to realize this coming fiscal year because the Meritage is building. And because they're going to be using water, it's going to increase our revenue by that amount, or projected to increase. Would that be correct, Ken?
Okay, that helps a lot. Is he gonna be paying any of this?
I'm sorry?
Is Meritage gonna, will they have to pay any of this, is it just on us?
No, that's what we're hoping, that because they're coming aboard, we're hoping that just them alone, we're gonna realize $25,000 this fiscal year, just based upon their water use. So that only reflects Meritage Homes construction.
It just seems so little to me.
Well, they won't have anything up and going. They'll still be in the construction process, but they're gonna be using water during their construction time. So I guess what staff did was to the best of their abilities, try and figure out how much they're gonna be using between now and then. So, yeah, but once they're up and running, it's gonna be a whole lot more than that.
Thank you, all right, I feel better, okay.
Just to
Okay,
add that, what we're showing here, that 25,000, that's a capacity fee for the increased use of our water. So they do have to pay that, but it's on their dime.
all right, nobody anymore.
Okay, anything else? Okay, other questions or comments as it relates to the budget? Excuse me. Okay, now specifically lines 1 through 17 is where we're focusing at this point. 1 through 17 is where we are at this point, so any other questions or comments? On lines 1 through 17?
Mayor, I'll just add to this, you're not going to see anything in this budget for capital improvements. What I'm hoping to do is, as we get into July and some of those, bring back a capital projects budget separate from the general fund, separate from the utility fund. That budget would be based on funding opportunities, like we were talking about the recovery money, possibly from the federal government, and also some state grant opportunities. But that would be, we're going to present that with the help of our auditor. We're going to present that as a separate budget for this year.
Okay, other questions or comments?
Yes. All right, so I guess if you said it was significant, then why you said it, or why we're not specifically clean that up, or why we're not going to see or use the capital improvement budget this year.
We are going to use a separate capital improvement budget.
Yes.
And the reason you do that is because sometimes capital items, big items, case in point, the Bryn Mawr sewer expansion that we just finished up.
Okay.
Sometimes that goes across fiscal year lines, it crosses over. So you want to have a budget that reflects the project, not necessarily the fiscal year.
Okay. Okay, so
Our former
that's the rationale.
Our former bookkeeper, he was, that was one of his projects he was going to try to get us to do. So, now, council may come back and say, no, just put it in the budget, that'll be fine, but it may be, you may find it easier just to have it as a separate budget.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Before we proceed to the next section. Just one, and this just maybe in terms of just documentation, documenting, to make sure that we do attend to the 50,000. On line 15, we have the 50,000, of course, we did a budget amendment, but we amended the 2020-2021 budget, and it's showing as proposed. So that's just for...
If we can for tonight, don't pay too much attention to the notes. That has been cleaned up. We did put 50,000 in contingency. But the approved budget amendment,
Okay.
that doesn't relate to the next budget.
Okay, so we just scratch to approved budget?
So I can do that now.
Okay. Alrighty, so we struck through comments on that line. Okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, then we'll have Ken proceed. Okay?
Okay, thank you. And jumping down to the expenditure part, lines 19 and 21, and certainly we can discuss any of this, but lines 19, contract services, the proposal would be to increase that line item by 5,000 as we're still 3 months out from completing the fiscal year, but you can see the column on the left where it says actual amount 2020/21. We're at $17,290 out of the approved budget for this year of $20,000. So the column on the right, just left of the comment section, that is increased to $25,000. So slight increase, I think, with goodwill. And line item 21, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, as information throughout the summer becomes a little bit clearer. I'll incorporate this in, but electricity, FPL is going to increase rates at some point in the new year. They're laying the groundwork for that now, as they're reaching out to the municipalities. It's good and bad. It will cost us more with our electric bill, but on the money that we receive in town, that'll increase. Okay, so just put a little bit extra in there, just a modest amount from 22,000 to 23,000. And that's the biggest thing as far as expenditures. That's under the water department. And if there's no questions there, we can always come back. I'll jump down to the sewer department and looking at line number 33, contract services. As you see on the first column, at this point in the fiscal year, we are $2,000, almost $3,000 over budget from our approved budget of $15,000. So the proposal would be to go up a little bit, a good bit, of $10,000 to $25,000. That's the line item where it's the lift stations and generators and all of that good stuff. Okay. Jumping down to line number 37, repairs and maintenance. Kind of the same thing on that. We're over budget. You see that 26,674, and these numbers are fresh as of today. So that's an accurate number. And so I would propose that we increase that dollar amount to 30,000 for next year, just to give us a little bit extra coverage.
Okay, Vice Mayor Johnson has
Yes,
a question.
Line 32, litigation attorney fees. It's an actual amount of 21,000 and we're proposing 1,500.
Correct, and that 1,500, we're not anticipating another Riviera Beach situation this coming year. I put a little bit in there just in case, but certainly, I would think not 5,000, certainly, definitely not up to the 20,000. So we actually decreased that amount from what we had actually approved. And as you see, that's well over budget. And I do have a correction to make, if you will. On line 40, where it says sewer department total, that second column that says approved budget 2020/21, where it says $912,000, based on our budget amendment at our previous meeting, that number should be $1,317,000.
You want us to write that down here?
$1,317,000.
That's better.
And I'll jump down to line 41, salaries. Salaries, that takes care of all the utility workers, part-time, two part-time and one full-time. The two part-time work at the utility plant, the water plant. Those are our people that run the plant, also do the water sampling. So two part-time and one full-time. That's our water and sewer technician. You do see that as of right now, I am showing, just in case we want to do something for the employees later on, rounded up that number from 96,000 this current year to 100,000 next year, just in case. And we'll talk, as we get into the general fund budget, we'll talk a little bit more about salaries and benefits and that kind of thing. Flipping over to page 2. And I highlighted 42, 43, 44, and 45, simply based on the potential for increased costs. Line 42, obviously, we didn't budget enough this year for overtime. We have had some after-hours need for people to come back in and work over. We had budgeted 3,000. We're at about 5,600 now. So conservatively, I put 3,500 in there. We like to think with this equipment that we're buying, that's going to reduce our emergency situations. Hopefully that's the case. But we do need a little bit of overtime money in there just in case. All right. 43, just showing a little bit of an increase there based on the possibility that some of these salaries could go up. 44 and 45, the same thing. Jumping down to 50, engineering services. This would be Calvin Giordano. You've seen our water and sewer engineer, Mr. Stambaugh, has been here for a couple of work sessions. This, I'm showing an increase based on the possibility that we may be doing some evaluation type work at the water plant. We talked about that at one of our previous workshops. And also, we're probably going to, based on council's direction so far, we may be looking at some grant situations that we need engineering assistance with. Certainly, if we look at the West Palm Beach sewer connection, we're going to have an engineer study on that. So a little bit of an increase there.
We're still at 50, right? We're still on line 50.
Line 50, yes, ma'am. And again, just for everyone's information, I'm kind of running through this, but where you have the line item number, the account number, and I'm going from left to right. Line item, or the line number, the account number, the description of what it is, and then you get into that first column is what we've spent so far this fiscal year 2021. That next column is what you approved for the budget, fiscal year 2021. The next column is the percent that we've spent, or the percent that's been paid out. And finally, the last column, proposed budget for 21-22. Okay? And then we do have the comments. We're going to clean that up as we go forward. Line number 57, again, electricity. Showing a little bit of an increase there just in case. I'm not trusting the number that I see for the actual amount, or maybe it's miscoded or something, but typically it's going to be around the $800 to $1,000 mark on that. Line 61, repairs and maintenance. Again, this is for the plan itself, increasing that number $1,000. We've done well on that line item, but increasing that just in case of an emergency. Uniforms, we messed up somewhere last year. That's line item number 65. My apologies. The repairs and maintenance, that was number 61. Jumping down to 65 uniforms. Really didn't budget anything. I'm not sure how we botched that, but I certainly did. So for this year, we'll try to correct that a little bit and put a little bit more in there than what we anticipated. And with us getting so many uniforms this year, maybe we won't need quite as many next year. Fuel, just kind of going to fluctuation in fuel prices, that leads us to the idea of maybe putting a little bit more in there. That's line number 66. And that's pretty much it. Again, this is pretty raw, this is pretty fresh. I'm sure this will change as we go forward, but it's starting to, as far as the utility fund, it's starting to take shape a little bit. Now, some of these other projects that we've been talking about for the DOE grant for the valve replacement, the valve program that Roosevelt's explained a little bit about, we'll move forward with that at council's direction once you have the proposal from our engineer. That's not reflected in this budget. Of course, that would be reflected in a capital projects budget, as would the potential of a new well. We talked about an additional well. That would be in a capital project budget as well. And capital projects is based on funding from other sources primarily. We touched on the idea of closing the loops on some of these areas, particularly across the street, where they're not on sewer yet. Paxton, Lakeshore, a little bit of Boardman. We still have some areas that are not on sewer. Potentially, if we get the recovery money, which we're looking at, just rounding down, I guess, 800,000. If that does come true and we do get that, it is saying right now that we can use that for water and sewer projects. So that would be the recommendation to use it for sewer. And Councilman Smith and I were talking about earlier today, when you do these sewer expansions, they tear up the road, you get a new road as well. So the Vice Mayor's talked to me a little bit about that over the years. Killing two birds with one stone, that certainly does. So, of course, none of that's reflected in the worksheet, spreadsheet that you have. Those will be ongoing discussions and conversations. Yes, sir.
In those 800,000 that we talked about, certain streets, the Bryn Mawr subdivision and sewer, how do, because it's a misconception out there with, especially the resident that finally got tied into sewer. There's a cost to tie that in that I don't think that money necessarily is going to reach. It may fund a lift station. It may do a lot of that infrastructure-wise, but how do we get that million clean it up? Because there's a lot of perception out there. A lot of people, we got the money, y'all got the money. Why so, I hear it all the time, why it's so pricey to tie in? And like anything, it's a cost. Now, how you format or finance it or pay it, I guess you have to be savvy. How do we get past that? And if by chance, because I would overload you, in that $800,000, is there a window where some of that money can be used to have to be tied into development streets and tied into the home, or that's strictly the home owner or business owner responsibility?
That's great questions, but I'll take the second one first, where I doubt it.
Okay.
I think if we are able to use that for sewer expansion, I'm going to take a somewhat educated guess. That's going to be for the line itself.
Right.
I think the tie-in from the property to the line will be on the property owner. That's a guess. Based on other grants that the town has received, I think that's going to be.
Yes.
Those are great questions, and it is typically when you get grant money and you put the line in, it just covers the line itself. And of course, the
paving and all that.
The tie-in, that's typically on the homeowner.
Right.
Business.
Right, and the question, like you said, misperceptions, and I guess the easy explanation, easy to explain, hard to accept, is that the town cannot pay to do things on private property.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'd be kind of open, I think, Mr. Mayor, we'd be open ourselves up to just say it fails, or, liability issues, it's a risk thing. So it's upon the town or city to infrastructure, get those funded, grant, whatever money to get those pipes in.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the actual hookup, business owners, I guess, the homeowners, property owners gotta, they gotta pay that cost, and whatever that cost may be. And when you start talking to business owners, then they're gonna, 1,000 would be too much. When it's something that should be 10,000, it's like a catch-22.
Yeah.
One always, satisfy the homeowner. I guess, I don't know, I don't want to use a blunt, but that's what I get. Those questions get, asked to me, and I don't always have the answer.
I thought that was what we'd done anyway, is
Yes,
we worked it out where they could pay it on their taxes.
okay,
So they didn't have to just throw out their $7,000, $10,000, whatever the cost was to run from their house to the line.
I know when my time come around, I'm being real 100, I'm gonna spread it out. Whether it's a penny a month or 1,000 pennies a month, and I'm not gonna lump sum it and pay it up front, but yes, I do want to connect, and I know it's gonna be a cost.
See if Sherry wouldn't mind explaining that process and how it works with the tax collector and everything. I think you pretty much got it, just going on record.
What Councilmember McConnell said we did the past 2 times for the Pioneer Road project
Okay.
and the Red Marsh Sewer project, the first one. This is the third one. Second one for Glenmar, but the third one for the town. And you decided several years ago that you would spread the non-ad valorem taxes what they are. They go on your tax bill, and because it was $2,500, you did $24.99.99. But this time around, it's a little over $3,600. So that's going to be coming up for you probably in August, September at the latest, wherein the sewer project is complete, and you'll have to determine how you're going to do it again this time around. If you're going to spread the $3,600 over a 5-year period like you did before, or if you're going to extend it to 7 years. And for those persons that have tied into the sewer, I think there's 16 homes? 16 homes. And they have the option of paying it outright or doing it on taxes like you were just talking about.
And it's interesting that and I'm not locking up bigger prices, but just the response of a resident. Well, we paid 25, now it's 36. So they able will go 360 on swivel. Why is it costing this when we paid that? Or why am I paying? So it's a catch-22, but material go up and price go up.
Yeah, labor cost.
It's that cost at that time. But we in this age where everybody wants transparency, they want to explain to the level and why this and that. And sometimes, our method of trying to get that to residents and businesses, sometimes it falls on deaf ears. That's too pricey.
Yeah.
7 years ago, and 5 years ago, I think the Pioneer Road and the first Bryn Mawr project were able to catch the plumber who underbid everybody. But like Councilmember Smith just said, the materials have gone up and the labor. So now, when you think about it though, it's really only, I shouldn't say only, it's approximately $1,100 more than it was 5 years ago. That's not bad for inflation.
Right.
It would have been a lot worse if the town hadn't received the grant for the infrastructure. you would pay anywhere from 16,000 to 23,000 to do it yourself.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
Well, it's like, you know, even a contract today, there's a limit. You know, you sign a contract that's only good for 30 days or 90 days. After that, price goes up.
yeah,
And the way the economy is today, the price, I mean, steel is going wild right now. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's almost out of sight.
yeah. So,
So, you know, the ones that got in the first time, you know, and now the ones coming in this time, they expect to get it for the 2,500. And, you know, it's just not the way the economy works.
yeah, a lot of things are,
Like the town clerk said, you know, prices, wages go up, material goes up.
yeah.
Seems
COVID
like
has,
everything goes up today.
right. And COVID has really, yeah, they're steep, yeah. Supply and demand. Supply and demand. My first Honda Civic, brand new, was $8,500. I go on the lot to look at a brand new Civic now, I run off the lot, almost 30,000? Are you kidding? You know, so things go up. Yeah, things go up, so.
People know that, but, you know,
Yeah, it's,
they're gonna beat that horse.
and it's understood, you know, and we could expect nothing less. I mean, you know, when it comes to us, you know, you try and negotiate it and if you can,
I'm
so.
talking to myself, now, I'm talking to no questions.
All right, we'll have you satisfied by the time we get there. So we'll have 11 homes. Okay. Okay, anything else, any other questions or comments? Okay, Councilwoman Green?
I want to clarify something, Mr. Mayor, before we all go home. I don't want you to leave here thinking that the town manager and I were discussing, I think, tying in our water to city. I guess when I made this statement, this is the wrong time, and going back to the wrong meeting, it reminded me of, I was really referring back to the workshop, when he and I were actually discussing, at that time, our water plant having the capacity, remember we discussed this, to handle the Holler property. And when I looked down there and saw that we were expanded, and this is what the question I was alluded to. Not that he and I had discussed hooking up to the water. I didn't want you to think that that discussion had occurred.
Oh, not at all. And in
Okay.
fact, right,
One,
right.
Right, okay, but he sent to
Right.
me, okay.
Oh, no, and it's fine. And in
Okay.
fact, it's okay to talk to the town manager about anything.
I know, but it sounded like.
Oh, no,
All right.
no, it's, that's the safe thing to do, is talk to the manager about things and.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah, and it stays there, so, until it comes here. so.
Thank you.
Everyone,
Sure.
remember earlier in the month, kind of with Roosevelt, myself, and the engineer talking, we're looking at the water plant going, what happens when the highlights go?
That's what we were discussing.
Panic button.
No, we fine.
Oh, no, that's appropriate.
Capacity
Not a
came
problem.
up, in our one-on-one,
Mhm.
it did come out.
Sure, and that's appropriate. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, other questions or comments? Okay. Ken, anything else as it relates to the budget we have in front of us?
No, sir, I think our revenue stream is going to be pretty solid as far as the utility part of it. When we get into the general fund, we're not talking about general fund tonight, but I think you're going to see there that, did everyone now get a copy of the audit? Vice Mayor and Mayor, do y'all have a copy?
Of what?
Gave one to Mr. McConnell, Ms. Green. and
Oh, the brown
Councilmember Smith this morning. That
I'll have to get one from you.
The 1819 audit.
1819 audit, that's correct.
1819.
The fiscal year 2018-19. What you're going to see in that is that the town's in pretty solid financial shape, at least through 1819. So,
Mhm.
I bring that up, I feel like once we get our 1920 budget complete by late summer, early fall, we're going to feel pretty good about that. I'm not running victory laps or anything like that, just saying that right now, revenue is good, spending is good. Staff, I think we're doing more with less sometimes, and And I think what we are fortunate enough to get approved in the budget, I think we're spending it wisely. But anyway, just to say, as it relates to the utility fund, Sherry and I did some hard looks at our bank statements over the last year, and we're doing pretty good. We don't have a lot of money in reserve to go out and spend on some of these needed capital projects, but from where we were at, say, 3 or 5 years ago, we're doing better.
Righty. In terms of just budget impact, go to line 72. And thus far, and just in terms of what we have in front of us, not that this, I always know it's a moving number until we actually vote the budget. And that's the contingency. Right, and you expect that to move either way? I know you had made mention earlier about some capital improvement that may be coming before us, I guess, at some point, or?
Right, good question. I think we'll put the amount of money there just in case we need it or whatever, but I don't see that. Unless council tells us differently, I don't see that moving up or down.
Okay, okay.
Simply as a safety net.
All righty. Okay. And just, I guess, for the purposes of just looking forward, what is the reserve at this point, roughly? The reserve amount is it exceeds this, of course, what we currently have in reserve. Unobligated dollars that we have in reserve.
Utility fund, I looked in there today, and I know we've still got some moving around to do. What I saw today was just over 500,000 in the bank account.
That's in the bank account.
That's in the bank account. Our reserve fund is still showing 19,000.
Okay.
I think when the auditors come in over the next few weeks and start explaining, I think we're going to see where that can grow.
Okay.
Definitely not money to burn, but doing something like that.
Alrighty. Okay, that's just able to be able to look forward and see. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, anything else from staff? Okay. Alrighty, hearing that there's nothing else before us, motion for adjournment. You guys want to stay? Okay. Motion for adjournment. Okay, we have to stay until there's, okay, is there a second? Okay, is there a second to that?
Is that your second, sir?
Second, third, fourth.
Okay, all in favor, aye? Aye, pose same sign. See this guy, thought you guys wanted to stay here.